All right, having some technical difficulties. Didn't think that was going to go through. Check, test. Have some technical difficulties over here, but looks like we are okay here. I'm just going to do stuff on a little bit of a different screen. Happy 4th of July on the 3rd of July. Cheers. It's not water. Let's get into it. We said it's going to be an emotional, time going to 4th of July. Like 6 months ago and so, into all-time highs. And here we are. The market ripped through even more than I had thought. Let's take a look. Saw no reason to share the doc here. Still Superman pointing to the heavens here as Spider-Man flies over what I imagine is Times Square. And Hawk Hood, that's probably hitting all-time highs here too, just correlated trade off of course, Robinhood. We'll take a look. The bid was very strong for I'm having some disconnection issues, so if you see something and I start sounding like this, that's why. It's not because of this. Go BG, by the way, Brendan Graham. Anyways, so today tech and solar leapt. We took a look. The tech bid was very, very prevalent today. SMH new all-time highs. We were forecasting this the other day. We said just wait until the SMH catches its bid to new all-time highs, which was today, and you're going to see the market get going, and that's what happened today. S&P added about 75 bips. Solar, we said that chart looked good. Couldn't believe it. Recommended Sedge on the Wednesday, yesterday's edition show of the single stocks. And we said TAN has room to go, and TAN had a big day today. We'll take a look at the chart. And China, a bit of a consolidation, a bit of a sell-off there today, down 1.33%. And again, as I said, let's take a deep breath for this. New all-time highs for SPY, QQQ, financials, industrials. There it is, the ever so important SMH or semiconductors, the broader tech index, as well as IGV. A mad bid today. We're going to focus on that. And then when all said and done on the week, characterized by big 6% gains in solar. Some had larger gains than this from the group I'm about to highlight. Solar, Airlines a big beneficiary, of course, from the sale in oil, and regional banks, a big move up. Those three groups led the week. If you were long those spaces into these all-time highs, you absolutely crushed it this week. All right, so let us get into it. We got a really, really fun, good show. Love everything that I'm bringing to you guys today. Before long, hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to try and do fireworks every night and see how angry my kids and dog get. Okie dokie. So let us first, let me zoom in here. Let me get to the dashboard. Hello. If you have a ticker, put that in the chat. If you have weekend plans, put that in the chat too. Who the heck? All right, first off, we'll get into the market here. We'll get into the intraday action in a sec. Of course, 1 o'clock close, which is why I'm talking to you today at 1:30 in the PM in the afternoon. Nvidia up 1.25%. Amazon added 1.5%. Same as Palantir. Robinhood, we said don't chase it there. It could give back some, and it did in a day which was led by financials and tech. The two tailwinds of Robinhood, they actually shed 4%. It was because it's mad overbought, as it has been for the past 7 weeks, actually, technically speaking. So that thing gives 4%, big deal. The thing's up 300% year over year. So 4%. I'm not gonna shame you. Microsoft added a 1.5%. Just because we keep highlighting, because there's a catch-up trade, and we're going to talk about this later. There's catch-up trade in anything because everything's getting a little bit of the dollar, of investor dollars. So Apple, it's going to catch up at some point. There might be better areas for you to be in, but Apple today adding 40 bips. We already discussed that one. Oracle up 3%, and that'll be it for that. For the single stocks for today. All right, so this was a pretty crazy tape. Obviously, a better than expected job number this morning. And look at this measure, overbought all day, starting 9 a.m. It actually began, I'm looking at the reading here. It began at 8:45 a.m., so just about 15 minutes or so after the number. We were overbought, technically speaking, over 70 RSI, and we continued to do so all day. We held VWAP all day, and we actually hit the highs at the 12:30 hour, 30 minutes before close or so. They bid it all the way up to 620, 627. And again, VWAP being at the close, 624.96. We held that as well. We are at 625 even in the SPY. As I zoom out, as I said, see continued bullishness for another 5-ish days or so. See about another week or so. July, a very bullish month if you look at the seasonals. This thing has impressed me. My levels were about 617 is where I had this for getting to the upside. Although if SMH, I said, caught a bid, which it did to new all-time highs today, the FOMO can carry us higher. And that's kind of exactly what happened today. So now we are at, got a question in there. Thank you, Gaston. Good to see you here. We will discover that at the end. I think I understand your question. Hey, are you asking, can you sell Home Depot in the zone of 350? Fair value is 260. Do you think I'll hit fair value again? Help. Just make sure okay, I think I see what you're saying. We'll discover that at the end. So good stuff there. We'll look at Home Depot. Just clarify your question. I think I got it. Okay, so as I said, back to the larger macro market, this thing has impressed me up. A Bollinger Band is about, even with the volatility expansion, about 623 now. And that's the absolute top stretched. We are overbought. It's good to see. This market has been overbought since, it's crazy, June 30th. So a couple of days ago, this thing's been overbought. Look at the tightness of the moving averages, though. I don't want us to get too far above our skis here. There is a convergence there. The 20-day, the 21-day exponential is at 606. Our exact middle Bollinger Band is at 606. I'm looking at the another moving average of the 50-day is closer to that level as well. Actually, sorry, the 50-day is 592, and I do a percent spread above that. And it looks like this market wants to visit after it's done reaching these highs. And again, look at what it's done here. Old resistance, that 614 level we were talking about being so important. Now it looks like it's got in the bag. I'm very interested. Obviously, more highs ahead. Beautiful looking candle here. Folks still want to get in. We closed at 626, or rather, we hit 626 high, and we touched we closed 625 here. Shows me there's still bullishness, more than likely. We'll see what happens in global markets, of course, because they don't care that England blew a 13-colony lead to us. So like China, of course, will be trading tomorrow, and we'll see what markets do. Crypto, of course, will trade throughout. Bitcoin on the heels. We'll take a look maybe if we have a Bitcoin chart. But basically what I'm trying to point out here is old resistance becoming a new supporter. I think that 613 level will be revisited on a sell-off. What's interesting to me is I think you may very likely get an opportunity with 605, but then this market is up and to the right, overbought. There are buyers on you. So as I said, more bullishness next week. We are overbought. As I said, that's the word of the day. I'm not so sure how much more we have to the upside. Like I said, I said 615, 17 was around where we're going, and it keeps on escalating higher. So market still absolutely strong. I'm not going to absolutely call it where this thing hits a break and toes the line. So absolutely remarkable market. Still, for me, probably we get to that 605, 606 mark in a couple of weeks towards the end of July, and that's going to be your entry into the second half of this year. So just an amazing, stupendous market. Let's take a look at the areas of the day, the week, and the year. Let's go. Sip, sip. You didn't see that, Gaston, and other viewers. All right, IGV. Boy, did they come for this one today. New all-time highs. This was a big part of why tech got to its new all-time highs. Absolutely stupendous looking chart. That is a new all-time high. As I said again, these guys were trying to beat their December highs. It was really difficult. Right around 110.5 today. It did it. It thrust all the way to 111.27. New all-time highs. I'm not seeing an overbought reading. We couldn't even scratch 68.5 in the RSI. I would like to see some of this bullishness and exuberance that we saw in May and from November to December. You didn't see it here, although this chart has been very strong ever since it's really closed above its 200 moving average. April 30th, $94 to 111, almost in a straight line. This to me right here is fully valued. This is going to be a frustrating, I think, chart reading because everything kind of looks the same. Everything's kind of extended, but the momentum is pulling it further and to the right. So for me, this is fully valued right around, honestly, 111. To be frank, like 110.75 was impressed about just how strong it was today. And then again, a tight convergences of a moving average at 107. But that is for a couple of weeks down the line. This is what it's going to be. But very stupendous trading in software since April 23rd, especially. Really, really meaningful. After the lows were put in April 7th, the oversold washout behavior when it actually plunged to the depths of $77 and recovered to its long-standing 200-day moving average of 94. It cemented its path towards a recovery here, and just an absolutely great looking chart over the past couple of weeks and 2 months. So that was the IGV up 2.3% today to new all-time highs. As we move towards solar, a big move today, up 4.5%. We've been talking about this one and how technically it looked decent and it's trying to turn around. These guys weren't really hot since Harris had, I keep saying this, since she was leading, Trump in the polls back to October is when this group had, these kind of momentum thrusts back here. And then it was ended. This is election, the day before election day. And then you see what happened as the results came. And the thing went from 42 to 36 after Trump won. And then we ended up hitting the lows in April, 25.5. Anyway, so we see here it really is trying hard since mid-May to try and recover above its 200-day moving average, which is 34.40. You have a nice little momentum breakout. We talked about this a couple of days ago as it's trying to eke higher here towards its prior resistance levels. Similar to what I said, like other charts, bullish and to the right, momentum carries it further. For me, fully valued is right around $37. Again, there's a lot of bullish pockets here. Like things are getting stretched to the right in many different asset, areas. So overbought behavior as well too. We'll see how much more it can go. To me, fully valued is right around $37. I still like it though for the next week or so. The next area it's targeting for resistance is about that 40.5 mark. And then after that, it gets really difficult around 43. I'm not so sure it has all that, but I do think it enjoys another week of bullishness with the market. This has a $1.24 ATR average to range of 5% basically today. I think it has a little more bullishness to go. I personally want to chase it here, but this looks like a nice stabilization after then a couple of weeks if you want to buy a recovery story. And this stabilizes right around that $34 mark, the 200-day. This could be really upside, obviously, based on the 2-year chart. Look at how much this is coming up from. This is an ETF placing solar bets. That's just 50 going back to the June 24 highs. If you play a SEDG or a First Solar or an End phase, you have a much more alpha than that. So solar could be an area to look at. Pretty wild to see. I never thought I would have said that because the chart is absolute. It's been in a loserville. All right. Speaking of losers of the day, China. They sold off China today to the tune of 1.1%. Not massive, but they did sell it off. It was actually the only area that registered a multiple standard deviation loser. China chart, again, just for you home gamers, if you lost track, these guys peaked. China did an FXI back in mid-March at around $39. We're off by about 10% or so to $36. I think this one has a little bit of room. I'm surprised they sold it off to this support point down to, like I said, 36 quarter or 36.23 to be exact. I think this has also, with the global bullishness of next week, I think this has potentially at least a move to 36.5 as it tries to get towards 37.5. So this was a hiccup today, but I do think these guys, China, tries to get towards right around, as I said, 37.5, right off of the heels off of those 52-week highs coming off of mid-March. So China, to me, looking constructive, nice, sharp 200-day moving average. And again, above, I'm almost curve fitting here, above 45 RSI trading since mid-April. No deep sell-offs or drawdowns or anything like that. Healthy stochastic momentum mix in accordance with where it's trading in its prior range. Nothing like a mid-April, early April sell-off. I think China looks constructive here. An entry at 36.5 or below looks constructive as a target towards 37.5. Probably reasonable to play an option. So I would do something like perhaps a 36 or 36.5 checking liquidity. Call spread for August against potentially a 37.5. So I think there's a little bit more to go in terms of upside. Not massive, but I do think it has some room. Okie dokie. Top 3 gainers the past 5 days. We were just talking about it. Solar, the best place to be in the stock market this week in the ETF land, up 13%. Pretty massive. The best place to be. We said it looked decent. And to be frank, I said that on the ETF. Let me check my notes before this relative strength really appeared. We said it on, my notes say June 25th. So that is right here. VWAP that day was $33.30, and you're trading $38 now. My target then was 36 even. So we've surpassed. I think it has another week or so, as I said, of bullishness, but I don't want to chase it much above 37. So be careful of sharp givebacks. This could easily be down 4% on Monday. That's kind of how the market goes. But the best place to be in the market this week was TAN up 13%, double digits. The next entry we have here was up 6.33%, and that were the airlines. A big beneficiary, as we said, of oil being on sale. These guys are up 1.4% today. They're the airlines, one of the leaders of 2024. I had these guys in my portfolio a ton last year and wrote about it. And I think they, at the start of the year, I thought they belonged in your portfolio. Here's where we are mid-year, right? July 3rd here. This one's pretty much, again, I sound like a parakeet saying this over and over. This chart, like the rest, are all to the right, kind of fully extended right here. I don't like chasing it. For me, maybe a couple more days of bullishness, but 24 is my full value, essentially right here. And that's a pretty meaty area that gets you all the way back to the March highs. And this was an area that I was contending with last fall. So I think it's going to spend some time here. It's been a monster rally from 21.5, and I'm just talking in the past 2 weeks. And that's kind of what we were calling for, and give it the benefit of the doubt with a sharp rising 200 moving average. I think the next 2 weeks or so might bring a sell-off to this down to about, it's going to be close-ish, but I think somewhere between that 2260 to 23 range. So that 200-day may be in jeopardy. You might get another chance, maybe see a spike in oil, something like that, and then it provides an entry here to about 2270, which is the 20-day moving average. So we'll see. But airlines, the second best place to be in the market this week, and a very close third. It came down to 0.1%, up 6, basically in a third percent, we'll call it. Regional banks up 1.2 today, call it. Look at these guys. Very, similar chart. These guys also at 5-month highs. As you can see, regional banks, a lot of XLF all-time highs today. What more can you say? Not all-time highs for the regionals. See a couple of more, probably like blow-off top type feeling, although just looking at the candle here, we touched 63.75 today, and they did sell off by 50 bips, but still a very strong day, up 1.2. For me, fully valued on this guy is right around $62 even. Again, the 200 moving average is back here at 59. I wouldn't chase it here, but it looks absolutely great. This is probably, tail wagging the dog. With XL having all-time highs, the regional banks will follow soon enough. And I like the overall behavior for the first time since Thanksgiving week, when it did hit its 52-week highs back at $70. This is about 12% away from doing so. So there's catch-up trades everywhere. Small caps, Apple, everyone's going to find, every squeaky wheel is going to get the oil. Every squirrel is going to get a nut here, because there's just monster flows and capital whooshing around, and that's not going to go in one space. So I would allocate towards your catch-up trades. Regional banks versus XLF, the leader, is an example. Okay, top 3 losers the past 5 days, and this is crazy, and one other point I want to make. Airlines up 6% this week. Regional banks up 6%. Solar up 13%. I had to zoom in with a magnifying glass to find the losers in the ETF space, and they might be what you think it is. Nat Gas, and look at the difference in the absolute terms. The biggest loser this week in the complex, Nat Gas down 2.7%. So when we're talking about the winners, like a Solar, regional banks, up 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 13%. I'm looking at the other side. It was a digestion week to the downside in the loser complex, and the winners, they started gobbling them up more, and you saw what they did with leadership like semis. So this Nat Gas down 1% today. We had said, because I think our follower, our viewer here, Chris, our boy, said, I believe I had it here on June 23rd. I said the market, I was expecting to get a bid, bullish accumulation phase. And I said this was going to get ugly here on June 23rd. And this was after the highs at $18. I said this was going to visit at least $17, and it has a very good chance of hitting 15 in the next 2 weeks. Well, here we are, literally boopity bop, 10 days later or a week and a half later, and we are at $15. Now what? Again, I see bullishness for the next week or so. They will gobble up beta and tech and things like that. They will not gobble this up. This will continue and try to consolidate in base and try to hold 1480 where my cursor is, and try to put a pin in that. It's enough that this is at 7-month lows. So they're going to try and put a fork in it right here, 1480. That's its job next week. And then subsequent rallies will take you more than likely to about 1620. And then that'll be the trade, technically speaking. But for right now, a messy chart with a rising 200-day and with the ETF at 7-month lows, essentially. So nasty. Nat Gas, the worst place to be this week, although to the tune of 2.75%. Number two, also commodity, uranium, and you had to zoom in on this one, down 2.6%. These guys are much better. Of course, nuclear, uranium. These guys overbought from May 9th, and it finally ended on June 27th. That's astonishing. That is that's just like NVIDIA type, buying. That's absolutely amazing. And the peak actually came on June 16th with an up 5% day at 39.30. Now what? Uranium shed about 2.5% this week. I said the second worst place to be. They were gobbling up, like I said, solar, airlines, regional banks, selling that gas, selling uranium. Now what? I think this has had a massive recovery, and I'm just talking, since here, since May 19th. There's a massive recovery since the stabilization is 200-day moving average and entered that overbought period. But very, very strong trading since April 22nd on this, just 2 weeks after its 52-week low, which coincided with the U.S. stock market and SPY. These guys will likely, I think, next week base right around, considering it's still bid market assets over hard commodity or commodities like this. This will continue trying to base, I believe, somewhere towards 36 half. I think you'll get a couple more chances, and then the target will be around $39, and that'll be your move for a nice 10% move in uranium afterwards. I still see like that very strong. Hasn't enjoyed quite a while, just going straight vertical. So that'll be your opportunity. Probably has a little bit of stabilization of these moving averages. Spent sometimes $36, but I do think the next target in a couple of weeks' time, towards the end of the month, let's say, is 39. Uranium, your second worst place to be in the market, and then we highlighted already. China was actually the third worst place to be this past 5 days, down 2.5%. This is not a commodity like nat gas and uranium. We talked about China already because it had a nasty day, down 1.3, which was where half of the week's losses came from. I still think this has like a little bit of a surge with a global recovery or global rally next week, and this goes to at least 36 half. That's not a big leap, saying it's going to gain the loss it gave back today. But I do think this tries to angle towards $37 and then starts to stabilize again towards 36 half. So a little bit more, sounds like a lot, but a little bit more range-bound trading in this big rectangle that it's been in since May, between 38 and 34. Still no major breakout of that, or we're moving towards the all-time high or the 52-week highs of 38.73. All right. Woo! All right, top three trades of the past 5 days. If you were long TAN, we saw that technically. That one worked. Long JETS, long KRE, you absolutely crushed it. 6 to 13% gains across the board. If you were in those, drum roll, sippy sip. I need a coaster. It's very leaky. I'm not dripping. It's the cup. Top three trades of the past 52 weeks. Love this part of the show. Puts a lot of things in perspective. Helps me honestly rotate portfolios sometimes based on where the strength is on such a look back. Your number one winner from last America's birthday through this America's birthday is good old IBIT, up 80% in 52 weeks. Yes, that's more than 1% a week, almost like clockwork. You see Bitcoin, it looks great. It's right around 109K. It could very well do it tomorrow when you're having hot dogs and all kinds of delicious, very high carb, high calorie food, probably, and drinks. Bitcoin could break through. So we'll see. The charts, looking at it here, it looks like it wants to make a move towards about 60. I'm just reading the charts. It's right around $64, I would say, and that would be 30 cents above a new all-time high. That would equate to over 112K in Bitcoin. That's what the chart looks like here. You're getting volatility expansion. It looks like this wants to go to 64 today. Digestion down 10 bips. They were bidding up tech and software. They didn't quite get around to Bitcoin yet, but a great looking chart. I bet specifically stuck between 64 and 56, a big range for it since May is its range. But the year-over-year leader, you have to be in IBIT. It's just a matter of how much you allocate. It looks like this wants to go to 64, potentially as high as 64 half over the next week or so. And then you will have very likely a drawdown to about $60, 60 half, right around that area. And that'll be your entry to allocate more to Bitcoin. This is your leader year over year. And number two, and this is super important because this is spending more time. I pay a lot of attention to this year-over-year recap, and especially when someone gets on the charts and they stay on the charts, almost like a band. ARC, this has been on the list, and now it's almost becoming a standard weight on our list. ARC, of course, peaked just last week here at 71.29, an amazing looking chart. The 52-week lows actually last during Yen Mageddon that we touched 37. It came very close during the SPY low at 38.5. Here we are trading at 71. These guys, I said before when it was this crazy amount of overbought, I'd like to see the bullish call confirmation. It was 70 half RSI that day. Great RSI trading as well. And this since mid-April looks very strong. But I said personally, I would not want to chase it. This looks like it wants to shed. Once the market, animal spirits give way just a tad, this to me looks like it wants to visit 66, have this old support or old resistance rather become support, also supported by the convergence of moving averages here at 66. So I don't want to chase it $5 above, but looks very, very, very healthy. If I see the market continuing to sprout a little bit higher, of course, this might benefit as well. I personally wouldn't chase it in terms of volatility. This could get to 74 on its own right. Again, I just not really supportive of that. It could get as high as 74, but I see more likely in the next 1 to 2 weeks a visit to 66. So that's your risk reward on that. Potentially up 2 and down 5. I don't really like to take those trades in terms of the long side. But this is you want to be long into this a year over year. When you get that in the next 10 days or so and move towards 66, get in it. ARC, your winner. Kathy Wood Summer continues. We said, I think, around Memorial Day, and it continues here. And then third, as we wrap up, before I get to your ticker, Gaston, GDXJ, the gold story is not dead. The minor juniors, we talked about this when we were on the All-Star charts a couple weeks ago. When this thing slips to the 21-day or the 50-day, you get that cheap of a discount, get in. And that's exactly what happened here. On the 27th was a picture-perfect few or this, good or lucky. The 27th actually got to 65. That's very hard to do. And now we're 68.60. Personally, I think this enjoys a nice 2 weeks. The flows have still been great. I think this is a gift with an entry under 67. Obviously, we're at 68.5 now. This looks like it wants to head over the next 2 weeks to $71, $72. And that would be new 52-week highs on the minor juniors. Your third leader. This looks like a standing trade right here. Maybe it trades down on Monday. You can get in with a 67 handle, 67, 72 call spread for, honestly, potentially August looks great to me. See what it costs. Maybe do 1 by 2. This looks strong. This is a winner. It is a leader year over year. Absolute superstar. That's where you have to be in the market. Bitcoin, ARC, and gold miner juniors. And actually, so it's IBIT up 80% year over year. ARC up 56, so you shed a little bit and basically tied with the gold miner juniors. After that, you find gold and the gold miner bigs, GDX, and then you have to drop down the complex a little bit to get to plus like 35% for EUFN. So, and then the story, the Europe story is involved, and it's Spain, Germany, and a lot of that. So this is where you have to be. These are not fads or flash in the pan, flavor of the week stories. You must. I'm pounding the table, literally pounding the table on Bitcoin, ARC, gold miner juniors. They're going higher in the second half. Really need a coaster. I have one somewhere. Rocco also just got groomed, but he's being annoying. He's got his 4th of July bandana on, but he, in so many words, said, I don't get paid for this, and he ran upstairs. So wanted to share him with you, but he was being a meanie. All right, let me get into it here. All right, so let me see this. Gaston had a question. Hi, can you, sir, I think sell HD in the zone of 350. Fair value is 260. Fair value is 260. Do you think I'll hit fair value again? Help. All right, let me pull up the chart here. So here's Home Depot. I think I understand what you're saying, but you know how I do it here. I'm just going to analyze this like I have any other chart. Look at that. This chart does not look great. The 200-day moving average is going down by about 4 cents a day. Let me drink while I look at this chart. Let's drink and look at the chart. So this was a stupendous rally when a lot of assets got rotation. This actually started a little bit earlier on the 18th instead of the 23rd, just something I've noticed globally. This was a monster rally from 345, and then it went all the way to 375, and now basically flat day. So similar like a lot of the other charts, this May, it's a weaker chart, obviously, since this 200-day moving average looks heavy as it has since early March. This may have another spike potentially to 375 to 380 looks heavy for it, which is where my cursor is. So I think it wants to hit its head potentially if markets continue to have bullishness, Gaston. This potentially revisits 375 to 379 area. It was a nice digestion day today, down very small. It is a weaker name, especially relative strength versus SPY in the last 3 months. So a chance at, meerkats and touches 375 to 379 absolute tops. I don't really think it's going to do that. But more than likely, this begins a 2-week move towards about 363 is what I think is going to happen. So it'll shed about $8 from here is what's more likely. Alrighty, so that's what I think for Home Depot. Again, 371 close today. I think it's possible based on animal spirits in the markets. It gets towards 375, maybe a 377 tops-ish. And then it starts ahead within the next 2 weeks. This thing will very likely be at 363. Only other thing is the homies have caught a huge bid today, this week rather, and it kind of put a stopgap in here, as did retail. And it was in a mix of both, but I think that will not be a super durable story that holds for the next 2 weeks, and at least some of those gains will be given back. Okie dokie. I hope everyone has an absolute stupendous 4th of July. Don't blow your thumbs off because you got to buy more stocks with it on your phones and devices on Monday because wheat is at all-time highs. Enjoy yourselves. Happy birthday, America.